Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood, feeling blessed.
Alrighty, let's take a look at the homework here. Here we've got a composite shape. Looks like it's made up of a rectangle and a circle. And if you draw this line, imaginary line straight across here at the top of where the straight line ends and it starts to curve, then what you basically get is a diameter of this circle. And since the distance from here to here is 11 meters, then the radius must be 5.5. So here we've got the dimensions here of this rectangle are 9 by 11. So to find the area of the rectangle, you just multiply base times height. And for the circle part, the area would be pi times the radius squared, but that is not an entire circle. That's only half of a circle. So 9 times 11, 99 square meters. That's pretty straightforward. And then the half circle would be half of whatever pi times the radius squared is. And so if you take your calculator and you say, all right, 5.5 times 5.5, that's going to square the radius to give you 30.25. Then multiply that number times pi, and you get about 95.03, but I think I rounded that off to 95. So half of that would be 47.5. Let's just verify, divide by 2. Yeah, about 47.5. We're going to round that down. So then add those together. Here you've got the half circle area plus the rectangle area. The total area has got to be 146.5 meters squared. Now for perimeter. For the perimeter, we have this side is 9, this side is 11, that side is 9. This portion right here, that's the diameter, that's not actually part of the perimeter. That's just the distance from here to here through the center of that circle. So we're going to find 3 sides of this. So that's going to be 20 plus 9 is 29 meters to get from here all the way around to here, basically, to right there. That's the 29 meters. And then this is a half of a circle, half of the circumference. So if the circumference is to take pi times diameter, then we're going to take half of that because it's not a complete circle there. It's just half of a circle. So the diameter was 11, so we're going to take pi times 11. And we get 34.5, 34.6, somewhere in there. Then take that and divide it by 2 because it is half of a circle. And 17 point rounds up to 17.3. I actually kept it at 17.27, but you could have eventually said this is 46.3, and that would be fine too. It just depends on where you want to round it. All right, so that was a composite shape. Here it says draw a parallelogram with a base of 3 centimeters and a height of 7 centimeters and show how you calculate its areas. So most of you probably showed a rectangle. Easiest one to draw. The height is 7 centimeters, the base is 3, so it's going to give you an area of 21 square centimeters. But it doesn't matter. You could have done a parallelogram that was not a rectangle, and it still would work because the formula for the area of a rectangle is actually the formula for all parallelograms. Basically, if I were to cut this parallelogram right here along this line, that imaginary line that represents its height of 7 centimeters, and moved this piece over to here, it would then form this rectangle here. So the formula for parallelograms works for all parallelograms, whether they're squares or rectangles or traditional looking parallelograms. Base times height, the area is going to be 21 square centimeters. Okay, find the areas of circles. Remember, the formula for areas is pi r squared. Sometimes they give you the radius, so you just take the radius here, square it, so whatever 16 times pi is going to be the area of this particular circle. In this case, they give you the diameter. So you've got to take half the diameter for the radius, which would be 0.3, so the area is going to be 0.3 squared, which is going to be 0.09 times pi. Now, let's see. I may have chosen 3.14. That's why it's written there. Let's see if if I use the pi button if I don't get something that's pretty close to the same here. So 16 times pi, 16 times pi, 50.2, this would end up being 50.27. So if you wrote 50.27 for your area, you are correct as well. You just used real pi instead of 3.14 like I had when I first did this. And then here, what could we have gotten here? 0. Let's just prove that 0.3 times 0.3 is 0.09. Yes, it is. Multiply that times pi, and you get 0.2827 instead of 2826, but I would have probably just rounded that to 0.28 centimeters squared. That just seems a lot easier than 4 digits, but I wrote the 4 digits in. All right, what do we have here? Leonard has purchased packages of grid paper for $2.25. He wants to make a 40% profit on each package he sells to his classmates. By how much should he increase his price? So what is 40% of $2.25? Well, you could use this as your multiplier. 40% is the same as 40 hundredths, which is 4/10, which is the decimal number 0.4. So if you multiply $2.25 times 4/10, you get 90 cents. So that would be the amount that you would increase it by. If you wanted to find out what the new price would be, and you just want to do this in one step, then go ahead and multiply times the multiplier of 1.4, which is the 100% price that he paid for the graph paper plus the 40% markup is going to end up being 1.4 or 1.40 or 1.40. Yeah. So by multiplying $2.25 times 1.4, this gives you $3.15. Remember, you got the 0 there that really doesn't need to be there now because we're only going to focus on 2 decimal places for money, the cents and the dimes. So 5 pennies, 1 dime, $3, blah, 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 $3.15. So you can use either one of these. You could have just stuck with this one and decided to take, oh, what if I took $2.25 and then added on the amount that I wanted to increase it by? Would you get $3.15? And the answer is yes, you would. So you don't necessarily have to use this multiplier to find the new price. You can use this multiplier to find the amount of the markup and then add it to the original, and you'll get the new price. All right, using distributive property and combining like terms. Remember, send in those dive bombers. This problem A just shows you that it doesn't matter. A lot of times people think the number that's being multiplied or distributed times each of the terms inside the parentheses has to be on the left. We're almost always working from left to right. But in this case, you can go from right to left, and it really doesn't matter the order. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 3.5 is 7. Here, a common mistake that people make is thinking that that minus sign is going to apply to a 7, but not apply to the 2.5x. But it has to apply to both of them. So you would keep the 23 as it is because this is not affecting any of these terms. Keep the 5x as it is, but that becomes minus 7 and then minus 2.5x, or plus a negative 2.5x if you want to think of it that way. So now combining like terms, 23 and the negative 7 combine to make 16. And the 5x minus the 2.5x, what is 5 minus 2.5? Well, it's 2.5. And you had more positives here than negatives, so it's going to be positive 2.5x. Same thing applies here. Send in those dive bombers, and this becomes, well, this is the 3x still, this is the 4.4 still, but that's going to become negative 2 times 6.6 becomes negative 13.2, and negative 2 times x is going to be negative x. So we're going to combine our 3x's. Ooh, I think I might have made a mistake there. Should that be 2x's? I think it should. So 2x's minus, did I make any mistakes here? What's 13.2 minus 4.4? 13.2 minus 4.4. Stop it. 13.2 minus 4.4 is 8.8, but we had more negatives than positives, so it should be a negative 8.8. So that is now the correct answer. Not 1x, it's 2x's. So I'm hoping I did that on purpose to see if anyone caught the mistake that, sometimes you accidentally don't send in the dive bombers and people forget that -2 has to be multiplied times the x as well. And is this our last problem? It is. Good. All right, this is kind of a tricky problem. It says 2 employees of Frontier Fence Company can install 100 feet of fence in 2 days. All right, well, what is the unit rate per employee? First thing to consider is that if 2 employees are installing 100 feet of fence, and we're assuming that they're working at the same exact rate, and it takes them 2 days to do that, then if you cut the number of employees in half, you would either cut the number of days in half or the number of feet in half. And so just picture it still being 2 days, but only 1 person working. That would be half the number of people, so they would install half the amount of fence. So each person can install 5 feet or 50 feet in 2 days. So if it's 50 feet in 2 days, then how many feet would it be per day? So that's pretty straightforward. That's got to be 25 feet per day. So that ends up being the unit rate. Each person is 25 feet per day. And so what is this, right? A proportion? Yeah, that's the proportion for the unit rate, and then how many people it would take to complete 150 feet of fence. And so that's going to be 6 employees if they're all going to do it in 1 day. Now, if you change the number of days, that would change the number of employees that you need. Maybe if you're going to work 2 days, then you'd only need 3 employees, since it's 25 feet per person, or per day per person. Yeah, so if you change the number of days, it would change the number of employees needed. So there you go. Hope you did well on this. Now, please, we did not do a check for understanding yesterday with those composite shapes. I highly recommend you go back and you review that before you take the assessment today, because this assessment can be a little tricky. Remember, you're not always going to have super easy shapes or just 2 really easy shapes to work with. Look at your composite shape, determine, all right, how can I break this up into parts that I recognize with the different formulas, and use the formula for each part, and then put everything back together. And you should do fine on the assessment today. And even if you don't do extremely well on the assessment, it's not worth a tremendous number of points. It's not going to kill your grade. Make sure that you understand what you're doing by the time the Chapter 9 test comes up, because that's the test that's worth 100 points. All right. Thank you for doing your homework. Thank you for sticking with me for the entire video, and on to your assessment, or on to your review if you feel like you want to before you take that assessment. All right, take care.
Hey, feeling good, like I should.